Thursday at noon. It's lunchtime. It's the chicken box time. We're here for another episode. If we just popped up, it's lunchtime. It's breakfast time, or it's dinner time, no matter what part of the world you're listening to. Welcome to the Chicken Box. I'm your host, Kevin Impeccable Peck, and you are saying, what in the world are you talking about with this chicken box? If you're from Baltimore, you don't have to ask. You already know that a chicken box is 4 wings and fries and it's not complete without sweet tea and lemonade mix, also known as a half and half. Now, if you're in another part of the country, you might call it an Arnie Palmer. But I think when Arnold Palmer first won his very first golf tournament here at Mount Pleasant Golf Course in Baltimore, somebody must have given him a half and half, and he tried to rename it and call it Arnie Palmer. But that's for another show. We're going to dispel some stereotypes. We are going to speak the truth, and we're broadcasting from the Afro-American newspaper. 128 years of bringing you not these kind of shows, but bringing you information, education, and inspiration throughout the years. Man, I'm ready to get into it. I'm just going to give you the title right now up front. Black People versus the Mattress. Keep it clean, everybody. Keep it clean. My two wonderful co-hosts, we have Dr. Tony Draper. Well, I'm sorry. I'm going to say it one more time, just for we do some generational things here. I'm Kevin Impeccable Peck, representing the Gen X's out there. Let's go, baby. Where y'all at? Dr. Draper?
I'm Francis Tony Draper, and I am representing the baby boomers who still rock and are still making incredible contributions across generations. So all the boomers out there, come on in the chat section. Make this a truth, right? This is not put it right there in the comments. Share this stream, like this broadcast. We need you. I know the boomers are watching because we are on it.
Because y'all just got on the internet. I'm just kidding. Just kidding.
All right. We invented the internet. So we don't want to go there, right? Okay.
No, we're not going to go there. And my millennial friend, Misha Green, how are you today?
I am doing well today. Thank you for asking. And I know the millennials are also watching and tuning in because we may not have invented the internet, but sure enough, we have taken it over. So guys, tune on in, come into the comments. Tell us how you feeling. Let me tell you, when we prepped for this show, there was so much I did not know. So I think the millennials have to have a place in this episode, if not just to learn a lot today.
Absolutely. We are talking about Black people versus the mattress. And for this conversation today, we brought one of, I'm going to go call him a friend. He's a friend of the Afro. He's a friend of the community in Baltimore, and he's a financial expert. So everybody, welcome to the Chicken Box, Mr. Byron Diese.
Hello. I'm so happy to be on the Chicken Box, finally.
Finally, they let you on. We talk about mattresses. How are you today?
Good to see you.
For everybody who doesn't know you, why don't you give us just a minute or 30 seconds or 2 minutes, whatever you need, to just tell people who you are and what you do.
Oh, no, I truly appreciate that. So Byron Diese, originally from Sanford, Florida, graduate of Tuskegee University as a finance study major there, and one of the famous HBCU, and financial advisor, been in the financial services industry for the past 20 years. Currently, I specialize on retirement plan manager, work with the Afro and the retirement plan for several years, and really just the focus is to help families prepare for generational wealth. And I think that that's really the goal, especially in this topic in and of itself is so important, particularly as it relates to African Americans and how we view and approach money topics. So excited to be a part of the Chicken Box to dive in on this topic.
Absolutely. We're glad to have you. If you just tuned in, we see Lenora Housey. If we popped up on your thread on the Afro-American page, let's do this. We forgot to do it. When we share, we're stronger, y'all. When we share, we're stronger. So if you hit the share button underneath the video, right on the Afro's Facebook page, we are stronger. Share it with your boomers, your X's, your millennials, your Zers, and do a watch party if you're tuning in at another time. This is the Chicken Box, breaking down stereotypes and all the time. You might not feel like it, but when you get to the Chicken Box, sometimes you just got to speak your truth. You just got to have your platform. You might be right in your mind, or you might be wrong, but it is your truth to speak. And that's what the platform that we've created here on the Chicken Box. So it's Black people versus the mattress. And you are saying, what in the world are you guys talking about? Some people are, and some people are like, well, where are we going with this impeccable today? Well, we're talking about the mattress as it refers to money, okay, to some financial planning, and how have Black people saved over the years? Has it been in the bank or has it been in the mattress? Dr. Draper?
Well, there are a lot of stereotypes and myths around Black people and money. So first of all, let me say this. There is clearly a racial wealth divide, and I'm sure Byron will get into this. But some of the things that you hear about Black people and money, they're truly myths. And some of them are myths and stereotypes, and some of them are things that, okay, we all heard growing up. We may even have done it. I'm not going to ask anybody to raise their hand, but maybe I will. How many folk, the reason we came up with this name, Black people versus the mattress, because the mattress was the place, right, that money was slipped. So you talked about, keeping money under the mattress. Sisters, we were talking about keeping money other places, right? Money hidden in the house. I'm not going to ask how many folk have money hidden in the house. And so myths and stereotypes, and some of that comes out of this, when the Depression was there and the markets crashed, and banks weren't welcoming us to come through the doors with money, and we knew that if we didn't have our own stash, Byron Diese, nobody was going to loan it to us, give it to us, or anything else. And so we had our own ways, if you will, of holding on to cash. Cash was king in the past. Cash is still king. But if we don't leverage the cash, it'll be just that. And I don't know if we're going to get into this, but susus are not the way to leverage cash. Okay.
Can you put those in the mattress?
Yeah, sometimes you're better off putting it in the mattress. And then I know we're jumping all over the place, but sometimes we funded our business ventures before the state got wise, or the states got wise and decided they could make some money off of legalizing the lottery. Isn't it something how it was illegal when we were doing it and now it's legal? But anyway, so some of those stereotypes are just around money. So we could just go on and on about, how we were either taught or not taught to invest.
Absolutely.
But we still had our own economy.
Absolutely. The Chicken Box, Black people versus the mattress. And, we can talk about money, but, we can also talk about how long have we had our mattresses, Black folks? So is it time for a new one? You can't just flip it and say it's new. Anyway, chime in if you have some mattress money. Like Dr. Draper said, the mattress is just kind of a symbol for having money somewhere in your house. And basically it's somewhere where nobody else knows about. Unfortunately, sometimes people pass away and they haven't told their family where the mattress money is. And they might move out the house and it was in some panel. Remember when you had paneling in your house? It was a time that the boomers, I think they created the paneling. But Misha, what are some of the stereotypes that you've heard out there about the mattress and Black people?
Oh, the boomers are going to come after you again today. I am just cracking up. All right. So there are definitely a lot of stereotypes surrounding Black people and the mattress, which in doing my research, and like I said, millennials, don't feel like you are totally left out. My whole job is researching, and I had no idea about any of this except what I had seen in pop culture. So maybe, the stereotypes were the only information that I got. So again, as I always say, this is not any endorsement by the Afro-American newspapers. These are solely stereotypes about Black people. And so we don't save money, we just spend money. It's that Black people spend tons of money. We know that we are a major part of the economy, and the Black dollar is very important. But that all we do is spend money is a thing, particularly looking at celebrities and celebrity culture. And then the way that African Americans are said to sort of buy into that, even without the money that some of these big time celebrities have. There's also a stereotype that Black people are always looking for ways to be sneaky with money, and that Black people are lazy in earning money in general. And then we also know that there are tons of stereotypes that we see in popular culture. You think about a lot of the movies of like the early 90s, early to mid 90s, like Friday and things like that, where of course the mattress was sort of part of the storyline. So we could talk about that a little bit later when we talk about pop culture. But those are some of the stereotypes. Again, if you guys have any more stereotypes that you have or that I didn't mention or that you might think of, drop them in the comments.
Man, the comments are coming up. Bonnie says, check the coffee can. Is the coffee can still exist for you coffee drinkers? Put in the thread if you got some money in the coffee can. I know somebody who was putting some money, rolling it up and putting it in pill bottles. It's creative little safes now online now, but it's things around, you know what I mean? And if you share if you got some cash laying around somewhere that nobody doesn't know about. Well, don't share too long. We don't want Baltimore. You're on mute, Dr. Draper, if you're talking.
Yeah, don't forget about the penny jar.
Yeah, right. And they made it easy to count those pennies by taking them to the supermarket. They take some percentage, but it was so much easier than rolling it up. Anyway, this is the Chicken Box. We getting into it. Black people versus the mattress. Byron, what have you heard about the mattress growing up? And you're a Gen X, so you represent the Gen X.
Yeah, man. And but I'm as I mentioned, I'm from Florida, and what was so interesting and I think back to my grandmother, her sister, my aunt, my granddad, everybody lived in the same house when I was a kid. Mm-hmm. And I remember my aunt would tell me, "Hey, go back and pull out a couple of dollars from in my room, in my dresser, and it's on the third row, and you got to pull and move this to the side." I'm like, wait a second, shouldn't we just go to the bank? I mean, but it was all there ready to go. And especially when you remember the movie, was it Big Mama's House? One of them, when Big Mama had all the money hidden inside of an old television. Right. So it's those type of examples are true. And there is an origin for that, and that's something we could probably talk about in more detail. But I've definitely seen that growing up as a kid, and just some of the ways and traditions. And unfortunately, that is a tradition that's been passed down, and you've learned it from, great aunts and uncles who did it in the past because they didn't really have a banking relationship. So
that's a great segue. You said there's probably some history or tradition to that. Dr. Draper, our resident historian, why don't you shed some light on what is this history of Black people? And Annie said, check under the linoleum. That is another boomer thing.
Listen.
If linoleum salesperson.
If this is going to be trash boomer, y'all in for it, right?
Don't feel bad, Dr. Draper. Last week, our managing editor, Reverend Dorothy Billware, got Mr. Impeccable, the Gen Xer, together because he talked about boomer names. And he said Dorothy was a boomer name.
It's no writing that to pull back a wound and pour not peroxide on it. You put some alcohol in the.
All right, pull it back in. We're gonna pull it back in. I think some of it came out of, as I said, the Depression and the fact that when the markets crashed. Not that we had a whole lot of money in the market, but it put a lot of fear in people to not trust the banks. So the FDIC comes along and they offer insurance up to a certain amount. But I also want us to be really clear about our history. There was, as we know, Black Wall Street. Black people built businesses. We didn't have banks to go to. And so that money that was under the mattress, that was under the linoleum, that was in the wall, all that came to the middle of the table, of the kitchen table, for us to start our businesses, right? And so we didn't leverage our businesses because, a bank gave us a favorable loan or because we had accounts. Look, even today, when people went to get the PPP loans, some businesses, they could not get those because they did not have a credible banking relationship or enough of a banking relationship to get that. So some of those things still carry forward. So when we look at our history, the other thing is, I don't know how many of our listeners and viewers on today can honestly say that when they were young, someone taught them about money. You know, somebody actually sat down and said, let me teach you about money, not about the S&H green stamps. Y'all too young. Y'all know about S&H. No. You know, not about what do we have? The savings bonds. You know, we had these little things. You take a dime to school every day, and you got the savings bond. That wasn't real investing, right? So nobody set people down, and I don't know that we do a good job today. Byron, you may weigh in on this in the whole financial management. So back in the day, Misha, Evan.
Back in the day,
listen, guys. I was a stockbroker for Merrill Lynch.
What?
And when I came into that position, close your mouth, Misha. When I came into that position a long time.
You do everything.
To know about money. So I used to teach people about how to invest and about stocks and bonds and how to leverage that intentionally for our community. But there weren't people looking like me. I became a stockbroker with Merrill Lynch as a result of a discrimination suit because they did not hire blacks. And so they hired me and one other person during that time. So we didn't have those channels. We had black banks. Yes, right. We did have black banks. We had black businesses, but we didn't have the kind of economic power, and still don't, and the wealth creation that we need to have. I'm off the box.
That wasn't the box. That was a historical moment for those who just tuned in. Thank you for sharing. We're talking about money. We're talking about how we plan. And if you knew that the pandemic was coming, would you have planned differently? You know what I mean? Or would you have even had a plan in place? For some people who, it hit everybody, like a car hitting you going through a stop sign. And how many people had a plan? So Byron Diese, our financial expert, or as we like to say, a relationship manager, is on. And why don't you give just give a little bit about the importance of planning, Byron?
Yeah, and I actually wanted to even add a little bit of historical context also when you think back to after the Civil War and when the Freedmen's Bank was established. This is one of the things that a lot of African Americans at that time were excited about Abe Lincoln's leadership in starting the Freedmen's Bank, even having Frederick Douglass serve as the first chairman of that bank. And then after the Civil War, that bank became basically null and void. And a lot of African Americans throughout the country during that time invested in the bank, and they lost all their money. And so when we think back to, and so now we're talking, the late 1860s and early 1870s, and beginning the distrust in the financial institution system, and that being passed down all the way up to, in many cases, even today. And so it's just so important for us to be intentional about financial education. What does that really mean? And to be completely honest with you, to your point, Dr. Draper, if you don't have a banking relationship, but you do have a system, and the system was, we're going to put it in the mattress, or we're going to put it in a coffee can, or we're going to put it in a drawer. And even to this day, I truly believe that the system has to be in place. I'm one of those guys who believes in it needs to be automated, because if I don't automate it, it's not going to happen. If I got to remember to do something, then it's not going to happen. So it's, so now in working with folks who actually do have jobs, and if you're blessed to have a job, most of these companies offer retirement plans. And I truly believe that for the average, everyday, working class, middle class American, that the retirement plan is their access to create real wealth, because they're able to reduce their taxable income, they're able to add more savings and invest the money all at the same time. And so it's really coming up with a plan as to, even though I only make, and people say, I don't make enough money to do it. Well, what are you planning to do with that $1? And that's the first question. You know, my daughter, she has her, chores and things like that. And I said, well, what are you going to do with the $1? Well, I'm going to spend it. Well, how much of that $1 are you actually going to spend? What are you going to do with the other pieces? And so we have to really begin to educate ourselves as to what to do with $1 versus, well, when I get, when I make 100,000 or 500,000, then I'll begin to think about what to do with that money. So we have to create a system early on.
So I want to
go ahead, Dr. Draper, jump in.
I want to ask a question. So Byron, I read some research someplace that said, we're talking about generational things, that 1 in 3, 30% of people, of boomers, have not planned. And now we are at retirement age. The oldest of us has already retired. The others are right behind that, but we've not planned. So when is it too late?
Yeah, I say it's never too late. When you stop breathing, that's when it's too late. And again, it goes back to goals. For instance, you may have someone who has worked, great example, someone who's worked for, say, the government for 40 years, 30, 40 years. They may not have saved that much in retirement in their 401ks or 403bs or 457 plans for retirement, but that particular job may come with a pension plan. Or maybe that employer provided some type of employer contribution. So it's a situation as to the type of work that you have. But if you're of someone who's, and this is the area where I try to spend more time because I'm very concerned about, is if you're a business owner, and unless, especially if you're, for instance, in the gig economy and you've created, you're a musician or you have your own trades and that's how you basically pay the bills. Maybe you have some people you've contracted with and you've done that for 30 plus years. And you're at the point now you're saying, I can't do this type of work anymore. I need to do something, but I haven't saved anything. Then now let's plan. Let's plan for, well, how do you plan to spend the rest of your life in retirement? If you want to stop now, what does that really look like? And if you have, potentially like insurance and things like that for healthcare and have you factored those pieces in? And so I think that at any point in time, this is a great example of, I have a client on the Eastern Shore, and it's so amazing. And it's a organization where the mother and daughter was working there. The daughter was in her 50s and the mother was in her 80s. And they still work as an assisted living organization. And the mother was saving. She was already well past retirement years, but she's continued to save, whereas the daughter in her 50s hadn't started saving yet. And it was an opportunity for us to not only show what the mother was doing, but then at the same time begin the process now. So as long as you're still breathing, there's still a time to put together a plan and a philosophy for your financial management.
Financial management. Have we heard those words before? Right? Let's try it again. Financial management, planning. So many people are passing away without a will, without a plan, because you don't want to plan to have to work if you're not driven or passionate for your entire life. Your life is worth living. You work and you earn money, and then your purpose to do certain things. And when you work in your purpose, usually the money will come. But if you're chasing the money, you know what I mean? And, it's somebody else's game and they kick you out of the game, what you going to do? I heard you say a lot of numbers, and I'm going to let you get in touch with Byron because he said the 457s and the 983s or whatever else he said. And some people, I'm making these numbers up because to some people out there, these numbers are foreign. And like you said, to the giggers, to the hustlers, to the people out there who are getting cash money, maybe hairdressers, or you have a service business, or you're in remodeling or something like that, and you haven't begun to plan. I had mattress money back in the day. I'm gonna get on the chicken box real quick, and I'm gonna bounce past it to Misha to give us some examples of what pop culture is doing today. But I think I heard it somewhere and it made sense. It said, tithe 10, pay yourself 10, and save 10, and live off of 70% if you possibly can.
There you go.
You know what I mean? That and that's how my mattress fund developed. The only problem was when it was time to get a house, they said, "Well, where's this mattress money come from?" You have to prove. You can't just pull, thousands of dollars from the mattress without them thinking that you're doing something illegal. But that's a whole nother show. Misha Green, you're on the Chicken Box with some pop culture. How is popular culture playing a role in this mattress? Black people versus the mattress, I guess we're talking about.
Well, so Byron put it on the mail earlier when he talked about seeing it in films and things like that. It was not Big Mama's house, but you were close. That's her character is Big Mama, but it was soul food. The soul food was such, particularly for millennials, right? Black millennials, at least. It was so important to our culture. It is what we learned about family. It is what we knew. And so then growing up and seeing a film like Soul Food, which we had to initially just watch with our parents and then we snacked and watched afterwards at the parts where they told us to close our eyes and plug our ears, right? That idea, those ideals, culturally, in so many ways, became a major part of what millennials do today and how we make decisions, how we raise our families, as well as some of those things that we try to sort of break in cultural trends, et cetera. And so hiding the money in the TV and soul food was like a big moment. We all knew it. And that was became a cultural thing that we saw in music videos. We would see the money hidden in random places in music videos and television shows, as well as films. But let me tell you, the most recent example that I could find on money being hidden in a mattress in popular culture was from 2014. And that was from, 2013. And that was from a film called Life's a Breeze. Don't know if anyone's seen it, but it actually stars a white family. So the fact that Black people have this rep is so bizarre because, for example, we know that the Great Depression hit a lot of white families. My grandmother used to talk about all the time living in Stewart, Virginia, which is super western Virginia, almost close to Tennessee and states like that. And she used to talk about the white people all the time, really struggling far more than her Black family and the other Black families in the area. And who knows, part of that might have been because the money was being held in secret places in these Black families. But I think part of it also is that those sort of ideals of money being hidden in the mattress and things that was seen in pop culture, even in the 1950s and 60s, post-Great Depression, 20, 30 years post-Great Depression, we saw in white families. So the fact that Black Americans now have this major stereotype about hiding money in the mattress is so bizarre because really we saw it far more in popular culture with white families down to 2013 or when the film came out, which was actually in 2014, and this film called Life's a Breeze. So it's quite bizarre that we have taken on that stereotype, but just like chicken and just like the other things that we've talked about on this episode, health and things like that, it's not like it doesn't affect other people. For some reason, African Americans somehow then get the bad rep, and that's how we have that stereotype.
Absolutely. This is the Chicken Box, broadcast on the Afro-American Newspapers platform, Misha, and thank you for that fact. When you said that, I think we had to do a show about Black people versus the angry Black man. Now, when did it become like, why is everything negative Black? But let that they put out there in the media, let's put it like that, because we know that that's the complete opposite. Are you so afraid? I mean, what is the real deal? You know what I mean? But you want to add anything to what Misha said, Byron, about saving?
I do. And when you think about it, at the end of the day, saving under the mattress is a strategy. Now, what are the risks to that particular strategy? One, if the money is going into the mattress, and that means that it's not particularly growing in compound in interest. And the other factor is inflation can, over time, if you continue to do that, you're going to lose the value, just the fact that you're saving it in the mattress. So what you're doing is you're saving money, but not allowing these other tools, compound in interest, rate of return, investing in different things that may not be, that may be risky. Some may see as risky, but there's a whole host of other things that you can do other than saving it in the mattress or in a shoebox or whatever else, wherever else you're not doing it. And so I think that it comes to a point where we have to begin the process of educating as many African Americans as possible on what else is available to us. And then you can begin to test the risk tolerance per person. And a lot of times we have a lot of folks who, you have that water cooler financial advisor who said, oh yeah, just put your money into this or put your money into that. And they have no clue as to what's happening with that money. So we have to do a better job finding unique ways to educate the masses on financial education, which is partly the reason why I chose to go into retirement plans out of all of the other things. Especially as a finance student, you can do all types of financial advisory services. But the retirement plan allowed me access to the worker, to the person who more than likely would not have a financial advisor and who were thinking about paycheck to paycheck, and who will quickly say, I don't make enough money to do all these different things. So you begin the process of one, showing businesses that you can offer these types of things to your employees. But then but the most important piece, at least from my perspective, is to be able to have that one-on-one education with someone who is a janitor. The same conversation that you're going to have with the janitor, you're going to have with the CEO of the company. And so, and being in a position to have that conversation with a W-2 employee and the conversation with the owner of that business, and what are the strategies available to both of those folks.
It's about education. This is the chicken box. It's Black people versus the mattress. How can your money grow? How can you begin to put a plan in the process? How can you begin to really think differently about money? Money is just a tool. The note that we see got the government printing is just an agreeable term, right? It's like, okay, I agree that just because it says 50 on it. I agree it's $50. Misha agrees it's $50. Dr. Draper agrees it's $50, and Byron agrees, and so does Amazon. So when we give them that money, right, they agree in exchange for a good or a service. That's just a note, or it's just something that we've agreed on. Now, I think because we've been talking about this mattress, I think we need to agree on that. We need to put a plan into place and get it. And it's so much that we say, yeah, I need to do that. And then next year comes, man, I really need to get that will. I need to get that plan in place. Then next year comes, and okay, it's New Year's. Remember that plan that I was going to put into place? Oh, then the pandemic hits. Oh, okay, then grandma dies. Oh, then there was no plan. Oh, then I'm on GoFundMe. That's not the plan. The plan can't be GoFundMe from everybody because we didn't make a plan for the future. So it's like, all right, I'm on the chicken box. I'm on the box right now, yo. We can't be selfish, so selfish that you fail to plan for future generations. Mm-hmm. And we, as Black people, as a whole, have to put our plans. How can we have $1 trillion spending power? If we had the plan, we won't need anybody with $1 trillion. Who do we need to do anything for you? Okay, I'm off the box. Dr. Draper, you need to get on the box at all?
Well, let me get on the box just for a little bit. And we talked about this history. Historically, African Americans we've been criticized not just for our saving habits, but for our spending habits, right? And so that was intentional, and it wasn't that long ago. So maybe in the late 80s and the 90s, where we were portrayed as gold diggers or welfare queens, and that was just a ploy to really send a message, if you will. And some of this is happening now. If we listen really carefully to the rhetoric, to convince people that we're dangerous, that we don't know what we're doing, that we drain government resources, and that we spend our disposable income on frivolous things. That's a myth. In fact, we have some iPhones, but listen, Black folk are not keeping Apple in business. More disposable income than we do so let's talk about what's underlying. Racism is an underlying factor, right? Byron probably can tell us more than I can about the racism in the financial arena, just in general, the blockage to access of information. And so some of these stereotypes about us, we pass along about us.
Yeah.
And we need to champion, that's not who we are. Do we have a fringe part of our population that may do some of these things? Yeah, but we're not in the majority that do these things. You know, welfare was not created for Black folk.
That's right.
I'll say that again. The welfare system in the United States of America was not created for Black folk because we were viewed as free labor, chattel, enslaved folk. We were part of the economy, but the part of the economy that we were in was not to put money in our pockets. It was to keep folk from having to pay a fair wage for fair labor. And that still goes on if you look to where some of us fall in the economic strata. But having said that, whether we have $5 disposable income or $5,000 disposable income or $50,000 disposable income, learning the basic principles of how to really leverage that is, I think, really important. So Byron Diese, hats off to you. When I came to financial services, there were only a couple of us. Prayerfully, there are more that look like us that are in this particular game. Off the box.
Dr. Draper always a trailblazer, one of the first stockbrokers there at Merrill Lynch. When they don't want nobody to come, you know, when you see those old Mary Tyler Moore shows and those old file cabinets and everything. No, I'm just kidding, Dr. Draper. I'm just kidding. I'm just lighting it up a little bit, okay?
There were two others there at Merrill Lynch here. There were Richard Dixon, who ended up being a legislator, and a guy named George King. They were there. So I was the first African American that they hired. So lots of good stuff, and some things I need to put into practice myself. So I'm gonna call you, Byron.
All right.
Right. Everybody gonna call Byron. Byron, we're gonna put in the chat how you can get with Byron, because you might not know somebody who can put a plan together that you think is gonna have your true interest at heart. You know what I'm saying? Because we're skeptical. If our money's in the mattress, we're skeptical about institutions, and if our money is in the mattress and not in the institution, or not in being compounded, or not in an insurance product, we're skeptical about the people who are giving us direction. So Byron is a friend of the Afro, so we vetted him already. So if you're looking for a plan, he's the guy to give you a plan. Misha, what's happening with the millennial? Here, I'm gonna let you get on the box and talk about your crew and how y'all handling this mattress.
So it's funny, actually, millennials are good at saving money. We have been lauded for our ability to save money, primarily because, I'm not going to say primarily because, but some of the statistics behind it, and no one shoot me if I'm wrong, but millennials are not having kids as early, and thus they're saving their money in different ways. It's going to things such as trying to buy a house. We know that we're not making as much as our parents were when we first got out, at least in relation to the cost of living, et cetera. So we're saving money to buy houses. We're saving money to pay for health insurance. We're saving money in order to go on lavish vacations, but we are savers. That's why some of you guys were really giving us a hard time in the beginning of the pandemic, because we had the money to go to random places like Tulum and things like that. Not that it was a good decision, but that's another episode. But I think in general, it's so funny. Again, we've been talking about the fact that this is not a Black thing. This is an everybody thing. And so Business Insider, and this article is from 5 years ago in 2015, but there became a lot of conversations about how people were saving money. Millennials were becoming the primary spenders, while boomers were retiring and not having the money necessarily to do so. And so this article was solely about the mattress. And it was in Business Insider again in 2015. And they said it was not just a one race kind of thing, more a socioeconomic kind of thing. According to Business Insider, more than 1,800 people from the American Express Spending and Savings Tracker were surveyed and found that 43% of Americans keep their savings in cash. And an alarming 53% of those cash hoarders plan to hide bills in secret locations at their homes. That's not necessarily something that millennials fall into. We're not necessarily hiding money in our homes or cash hoarding. In fact, millennials get a bad rep because we never have cash, and I can embarrassingly say I fall into that category. But at the end of the day, there are so many apps, etc., that millennials are investing in and or have already, some of them are free, and they are using in order to save their cash. And some of those apps are such a great way. There's also, and I'm sure Byron can go deeper into this, there are also so many programs that people are starting to buy into where they spend their money in a certain place and get some back. And so those are sort of things that millennials are starting to do. Going back into millennials loving to travel. I don't know why we love it so much, but we do. And a lot of the research I was doing, millennials save by putting a lot of their trips on their credit cards and getting it back in that way. And so those are just certain things that my generation has found as ways to save. But you know, again, I think we're in a weird place, unfortunately, because we've been sort of taught by boomers who then were taught by the silent generation, or I think it's silent generation boomers, correct me. I'm right before boomers, so correct me if I'm wrong. But they've been taught those things. And then we were taught by our parents, who are sort of in a place of, we'll put a little bit of money to the side, but we're also saving in our saving accounts, and we still balance our checkbooks, but barely. And so we've had to find other ways like apps, etc. And oh, great point. Sorry. And the other issue is more than 30% of millennials are still home with their parents. And so again, that's another way to be able to save. And like I mentioned this earlier, part of it again is cost of living, et cetera, is very different from when our parents first bought houses and things like that. But it's a way to save.
If you just tuned into the Chicken Box, it's Black People versus the Mattress. If you have your lunch, your breakfast, or your dinner, depending on where you live in the country. Byron, who is from Florida, said he grew up with a multi-generational household like a lot of us do. Now, Byron, I hear an echo. Possibly you're watching the Facebook thread and this stream thread at the same time. So, yep, there we go. It's all about the sound. We all know. We home. We streaming live. And we are learning how to do this. As we're going to learn how to put a plan into effect. But my whole point was, when Misha said you could save money, do you guys really want to live in a multi-generational home? Should we buy bigger homes so that everybody can have a little bit? And can we save like that? Because I know, and I'm not taking no shots, but I've seen other ethnicities, especially the am I saying it right? The Hispanic? Is that right?
Right, or Latinx.
Latino, all right. Come into my same block, and about 25 people live in that house. I don't know how many people really live in that house. And when they make enough money, the person moves out and they buy a house. You know what I mean? It's like they put their money together and they save and they keep it moving. And maybe we're gonna have to do Black people versus Hispanic one day. Just you know, because
Black people versus brown.
There we go. Black people versus brown. I think we're gonna have to go because it's a stereotype that Black people are lazy and that Hispanic people will come in and get work done. But
the truth of the matter, Kevin, is if you look at the statistics, Asians live in multi-generational homes more than Hispanics and more than African Americans. So it's Asians first, then African Americans, then Hispanics. There's nothing wrong, in my opinion, with living in a multi-generational home as long as boundaries and space are agreed upon. Whether you've got one bed, I mean, come on now, we're talking about the Black family. All of us now want to have our own bathroom. Everybody wants to have their own bathroom. Now, I don't know how you all grew up. We grew up with one bathroom and maybe a toilet in the basement. I don't know. That wasn't a bathroom. We grew up with
it wasn't an emergency. It was
one bathroom. You did not soak in the tub for an hour. You got in there and took your shower. Come on, Byron, how many bathrooms do you have in your house growing up? You have more than one?
Not many. I think it was one. That was it.
But so multi-generational homes are not new, especially in the African-American community, because we knew it took a village to raise a child. So I think it just depends on the family. We learned a lot. I wasn't in a multi-generational, well, I was my mom and then us. I guess that's 2 generations. But there are people today that we've said to our elders, as long as we can, we're going to keep you home. But that's another whole discussion for another time. But we sometimes don't like delayed gratification in terms of, can we wait? Can I wait? So my husband and I and my daughter and her children and her husband, we all lived together for 8 months. But we had a little bit of space. And we love to see you every day, but we were glad when we left. They probably glad when we left as well. So it just depends on the family. But we were able to pool our resources and do some things that we might not have otherwise done. So I think there's some value in some merit. Depends on the family.
Byron, how strong is pool resources in our community?
That's part of the reason why I really, I guess just since the pandemic happened and the Susu version, the newest Susu version came out, I understood the concept and the principle, especially so many people who were out of work. But it's just so important to make sure that you have a tight knit pool. And that was the challenge with what we were seeing, is that these weren't tight knit pools. So if your family comes together and says, we're going to every month, put in $200, or every week we put in $100, or whatever that strategy is, and then you give that money a goal. You're saying we're doing this because, or you can put together a portfolio for that money. You can say, well, 25% of that money will be set aside for emergencies if any of us have an issue. But another, 35% of that money is now going to be invested actively on, real estate investments or vacation homes or anything like that. Something that, give that money a job, give it a real investment policy that we can now say, that's why we're doing this. So someone doesn't say, you know what, I don't want to do this anymore. I can find something else that's better to spend that $100 a week or whatever the approach is. And so pooled investments, especially when that pooled net is a tight knit group of family or friends, people who you trust, people who you know and understand, it's definitely valuable in that respect.
This is the Chicken Box, where we inform, educate, and inspire, Byron. And it may be somebody who heard that word just now for the first time, portfolio, and somebody who may have heard it for a long time and maybe think it's a briefcase or something like that. But can you give the 1 minute definition of what the portfolio that you were referring to, Byron? What?
Yeah, I like to look at it like a pie. When you make a sweet potato pie or whatever type of pie you have, and then next thing you know, somebody starts cutting it. It's like, okay, well, you cut 10% of that pie and she ate it. And so it's really the same thing as you have in this case, money that you don't have to spend. It's not allotted to some fixed expense, and it's just additional discretionary money. And then at that point, you can decide, what am I going to do with it? That's your portfolio. You can have a portfolio of $100 a month, and that's your discretionary amount. And you decide what am I going to do with that $100 that I have? As in addition to, it's not allotted to anything else and paying a bill or anything like that. So that's a portfolio, and you to identify what percentage of that $100 a month will go toward investing, will go toward emergency savings, will go toward insurance, or whatever the case may be. And I know we're getting close to 1 o'clock, but one quick thing I wanted to mention, and this helps me personally to kind of simplify financial planning. And I think about it in I call it the 3 L's of financial planning: lifestyle planning, long-term planning, and legacy planning. And really taking a look at my money from that respect, and we'll say, what am I doing with the dollars that I earn, and where is it going? Is it going all to expenses? Am I going to work just to pay bills, or am I actually able to put together a little bit of a discretionary money towards something else? And Kevin, you hit the nail on the head with that 70-30 plan. That is exactly a great way to approach it. where you say, well, I'm only going to spend 70%. Matter of fact, I'm going to live the best life I can live on 70% of my income, and then take the other 30 and give 10% away to your church or your favorite nonprofit. Take another 10% and give it to your retirement plan so you can save for your long term and your future. And then you take the other 10% and you invest it in a business for yourself.
Hey,
Take it to the party. Whatever makes you get excited, but at least you have a plan at that point.
Absolutely, Byron. I mean, it has been a pleasure. You've been a friend of the Afro. Like I said, if you just tuned in, Byron is a financial expert and a relationship manager who not only services the Afro-American newspaper, is there for everyone, not just the person who thinks that they can have a portfolio, but for everyone who wants a plan, who wants to put a financial plan for their, I like the 3 L's, and I forgot one of them. It's legacy, right? It's lifestyle, and what was the third one?
Long-term and legacy.
Long-term, okay. We already told Black folks like it now. Like, why don't you skip a year on the iPhone? No, I want this now. This iPhone now. Now, some things we do have the now mentality, and so do other people. And then they just justify it. Well, I needed the new AirPods that could charge by themselves because the other ones I have to plug in. Sometimes the plug wiggles. So I would rather have the one. So I'm going to just spend another $150 because I wanted to sit on the charger. And so that was really a want, but you justified it. That how much better your life was going to be once you could sit it on the charger, except for plugging it in. And that was me yesterday at the store. So anyway, Misha, we have some Afro facts that we want to drop on y'all. The Afro has been doing business for 128 years. If you haven't checked this out lately, go to theafro.com and become a member, y'all. This is a pandemic, and we are now in a membership model. Some great things are maybe some financial seminars will be available to you because you're a member of afro.com. We have to value our people, our institutions, what we have. If you want the true authentic voice of the African American community. And for 128 years, we have solidified that we have been able to do it. And with your help, we will continue to do it for less than 2 Uber Eats service charges, y'all. Y'all could probably get a whole year and gift it for Christmas. Anyway, Misha, Afro facts for this week. What we got?
Well, this week's Afro fact is inspired by today, September 24th, 1957. And that's when 9 Black students integrated a Little Rock high school. Now, you might know them as the Little Rock 9. And those 9 students hoped to integrate a formerly all-white school on September 4th, the first day of school. But when they showed up to the school, Governor Orville Faubus called in the Arkansas National Guard to block the Black students' entry into the high school. Later that month, President Dwight D. Eisenhower sent in federal troops to escort the students into the school, drawing national attention to the civil rights movement. That was 63 years ago today. And that's this week's Afro fact.
63 years. Whew, thanks, Misha. Now it's time for some hot grease because you can't have no chicken. You can't have no fried. Listen, y'all say, why are you calling this the chicken box? It is where you get up on the box and speak your truth. I'm even going to show you, the box, what it really looks like. Here it is, y'all. That's your box when you're talking. You're getting up on that box and you're speaking your truth. All right. But in Baltimore, we know it's 4 wings and fries. So if you're eating now, you're cool. If you're not eating, you're probably thinking about food. If you really want to know how it kicked off, go back to our first episode. It's archived and it's called Black People versus Fried Chicken. And you will get a laugh. And, maybe you will say, we're not the only ones that like fried chicken. Because if you say fried chicken around anybody who likes fried chicken, I've never seen anybody, when you say fried chicken, not smile. Have you? When you say, hey, how about a little fried chicken? No, who makes that face? Anyway, some hot grease, Misha. we have the last 30 seconds for everybody just to go through and give your final points on this mattress. It's hiding money in the mattress a bad idea. And should the so-so or the susu or the whatever, the flower, the friends helping friends, the friends and family, whatever you call it. Because I've had the same person hit me with the Susa and call it a certain different ways. And yeah, and my friend got this amount of money in so many days. But there's always that other friend who you invite in who gets caught holding the bag. But anyway, what I've seen, unless it's tighten it like Byron says. So we got the hot grease. And Misha, since you're right in my view on the left-hand cube, go right ahead with the hot grease.
Alrighty, so I think the first one we're doing today is the Susu. Should we do it? And this is my idea or my thought on it. In terms of the Susus, I totally understand the thought of people coming together, pooling their money, working with a close group of people. And even the language behind it is so beautiful. I know you guys have heard the watering and the flowering and the gifting and bless. I mean, look, who wouldn't want to be a part of something like that? Here's my thing. I do a Susu every day. I wake up in the morning and thank God for my life because I pay rent for my house, right? And thus I get the ability to live in it. I pay my phone bill and thus I get the ability to speak on it. I pay my light bill and thus we have electricity. So that's my idea in the giving back of it. And maybe that is selfish and I'm okay with that for today. Because the Maryland governor said that was illegal anyway. So I'm gonna go with that. But I love the sort of pathos and ethos around it in terms of people pulling their money together. But I cannot risk losing money or losing an investment because some person was not able to pay their watering or weren't able to flower. I just cannot risk that. I can't risk that, but I can pay my bills and get the reward of living in my household.
Hey, before we go on, Byron, I just need to find out what's the best way to get in touch with you, brother. They are asking. I can type it up and put it on the screen.
Yeah, I did. I actually put my my direct link to the firm, so you can shoot me an email there. So it's in the draft, but reach me.
It's in the chat of the Afro.
It's in the chat there now.
Okay, we'll look for it. But his name is Byron Diese, and the name of the company is
Glass Jacobson Financial Group.
Glass Jacobson Financial Group. I'm not going to try to spell that right now, but Glass Jacobson Financial Group. Anyway, Dr. Draper.
So on the box, I agree with my millennial friend, Misha. Listen, there are a lot of ways that we can make money. So the concept behind a Susu, circle game, blessing loom, flower, whatever it is, it's a savings club, but it's a savings club when it's done legitimately with no interest. You get out what you put in, right? And so as soon as somebody tells you that, you know what, you got to recruit 2 people to make this thing go, and you're going to get out more money, check it out. Because if one person drops out that thing, like Misha said, it's all over. But if you want to do a savings club with some close family and friends, just know that, you know, you will have a fund, but for the most part, you're just going to get out what you put in when your turn comes. You're not adding anything, and everybody has to stay committed to keep putting it in for you to get it out. And so I think that there may be other ways, better ways to make money. If you just want to have a savings club, you know, like the Christmas savings club at the bank, go for it. Nothing wrong with it. But as I said, if somebody says something that you have to recruit people, and all you have to do is recruit 2 people to keep the money flowing through the fund. And the state of Maryland, I know people don't want to hear this, but the Attorney General has viewed that not as a savings club, but as a pyramid scheme, and it is illegal. So there are lots of other ways I believe we can leverage some money, and there's some ways that we may be able to pull some resources. For example, if we have enough people that want to, in investing, for example, a real estate investment trust is nothing but people pooling money, people that you don't know, right? But they're people who are pooling money. So there are ways to pool money. When you buy bonds, you're pooling money with other people. You're not buying that municipal bond on your own. You're pooling money. So there are ways to pool money. Or you may say, as a friend, I've got friends that we want to open a restaurant or whatever together. Just remember, friends are friends, business partners are business partners. And so if you and your friends are going to go into business, I'm going to stay on this box for a minute. Just make sure that it is a legitimate, legally binding business arrangement. For as the old folks say, that's how people become unbenefited. I don't know what that means, but that's how they fall out. I'm off the box.
Unbenefited. This is Chicken Box. We're winding down. We're wrapping up another great episode of Black People versus the Mattress and the bad ideas and the pooling. And it made me think, a lot of times you think it's a good idea to get into business with somebody. And at the beginning, when you're getting those percentages together, you think it's going to be 50-50 or whatever the percentage is. You really got to realize of what percentage of value and work that person's going to bring too. So when you're in your initial warm and fuzzy, huggy stages of this grandiose business idea, that's the time to really dig a little deeper into the value. Okay, are we going to both be doing 50-50 of the work? Are you really going to be adding it in? Or am I going to be doing 80% and you doing 20%? And really, your money over time should get paid back, but maybe your value in the company is not the same. Just another perspective. But Byron, you're in the box. Final thoughts. I had put you on mute because there was a little background noise on. It wasn't to shut you up, my brother. Just to let you know.
No, not at all. And we are doing schooling from home and working from home, so you probably hear all kinds of stuff going on here. But I wanted to make sure that we share some books. I'm a big believer in reading and getting the information. One of my favorite books, as it relates to financial management, is The Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki. And it just gives you a great view of the progression of where you can potentially take your money and how you spend your time in earning income. It's a great book for people who are looking to do a little bit more. It's one thing if you're just saying, hey, I'm just, I'm happy with what I'm doing. But if you want to do a little bit more, The Cash Flow Quadrant is an awesome book to read. And then also one of my favorites from Dr. Booker T. Washington, from founder of Tuskegee University, The Negro in Business. The Negro in Business is a great book that really outlined the African-American business network historically during the late 1800s, early 1900s, how they were able to create an economic system throughout the country and be able to build businesses, help to provide, as Dr. Draper mentioned earlier, even the Black Wall Street. Many of those business owners are in that book. So The Negro in Business by Booker T. Washington is a great read, and I think it'll be helpful for anybody who's interested in getting into business or already in business and looking to expand and create more ecosystems within other African Americans.
Okay, I'm gonna throw this commercial out really, really quick. And so Byron is part of our business advisory council, so we give God praise for that. The Afro is planning a Black Business Matters Expo in November, so stay tuned. We'll let everybody know when that's going to be, but we're excited about that. And so thank you for naming those books, Byron. I have on my bookshelf little thin books like this, little leather books from the early 1900s, a whole set of them that my grandfather referred to, how to do marketing. So things have changed in terms of product, but principles haven't changed.
Absolutely. Before you put your money in the susu, take some money and put it in the book, because a lot of things and information that you're seeking, for some reason, this generation now wants everything right now without doing any research. Even people who can Google the same thing that you can Google will ask you, like your Google. It's like you have the same Google that I have, in case you didn't know, right? And these books are now in electronic form. You can set your computer up or your phone to read to you. They come in the audio book, however you like to learn, however you like to get it. And sometimes, I'm not saying this is the legal or illegal, but it's books that people have on YouTube that people have done an audio version of somebody's book. But support the author. One of my favorite books, since we're talking about money, is God's Banking System. It's called God's banking system, and nothing against any financial institution out there, but the best multiplier that I've found in my life over 50 something years is God's banking system. You're not going to beat that multiplication, that compounding that He's going to put on your money. I can't explain it. I'm just putting the information out there for you. There's a book. Byron shared some books. This is the Afro. We're going to share information. What you do with that information, it's on you. Are you going to put the plan together? And if you're in business, we want to see you at the Black Business Matters. That's right, because it matters that we get our business in order. We get our house in order first as a family, and then we get our business in order so that we can make our economy grow like every other culture does. You know what I mean? As soon as we do it, it's you know, it's a big deal. But everybody else is doing it. They buying from each other, selling with each other. They're circulating that dollar in their community. And as soon as we do it, it's like, what are they doing? Are they coming up with a conspiracy to take over? Yes, we are. We are coming up with it. Just in case you're listening, we are coming up and with it so that we can make sure that our community is good. So, Nisha Green, Dr. Draper, Byron Diese, this has been another edible version of the Chicken Box. We're glad that you were able to make it. Byron is usually, when we stream live, y'all, he's the first thumbs up, and we appreciate that. You know, like when y'all doing the chat, Chippy, Lenora, Rika, Erica, Diane, William Clemens. Is that William from New Jersey? What's up, homie? Let me see who else is on there. Maureen Peck, Diane Hocker, Derek West, Anai. I'm probably saying it. Bonnie Deans. Maya, man, everybody who's tuning in, share this thread. Get with Byron at Glass Jacobson and let him put a plan together for you. You know what I mean? Plan on not eating out as much. Oh, I don't like to cook. I mean, you know, I think it's a new business, y'all. I'm going to give it to somebody. You can go by somebody's house and cook for them. Stop by or prepare the food or whatever you got to do, because there's a lot of people who don't want to cook at all in this generation right now, or in all of the generations.
All generations.
We're gonna give you that. We're gonna give you that for free.
I want to go upstairs and get my money from under the mattress, so I'll talk to you.
Well, you need a little something. You gotta have a little cash, because you know, because sometimes if you hit the right tip at the right time, and this is for people. Some people don't believe in tipping, but I'm telling you, when it's not really a tip, you are sowing your seed into somebody's life. Somebody's out there hustling, working. You exceed their expectation with a tip. I'm telling you, you're gonna have the best seat in that restaurant. Your car is gonna be up front on the parking. It'll get you into that door. So get a little money for tipping. I don't know how they doing it digitally when they don't have no cash, but we can figure that out. That's another business. Anyway, that's all for the Chicken Box today. Go to afro.com and thank you for tuning in to the Chicken Box.